Coco Gauff told what is the biggest issue with her serve that will be really difficult to fix. Coco Gauff's ongoing problem with her serve may be very difficult to fix, according to Rennie Stubbs. Gauff has struggled with her serve for some time, particularly when it comes to double faults, leading the way on the WTA Tour in 2026. Worryingly for American superstar Gauff, it was an unwanted leaderboard that she also topped in both 2024 and 2025. Gauff hired Gavin McMillan ahead of the 2025 US Open in a bid to solve the issue, but her double fault problems have continued since that appointment. Rennie Stubbs breaks down Coco Gauff's serving problem. Former player Stubbs has now shared her take on the world number 4, who has still managed huge success despite the clear issue. "I think her problem, it's 90% mechanical and 10% mental," said Stubbs, as quoted by Tennis Channel. "The problem is that the 10% becomes 50% once the serve starts going off, because bad technique breaks down under pressure. There are so many mechanical issues with Coco's serve that it's really difficult to change at this point, but I do think it's possible. I know Gavin is trying his best. It will, of course, take time for McMillan to iron out the issues, but whether or not Gauff can stay patient remains to be seen." How has Coco Gauff served in 2026? Gauff has been far from perfect on the court in 2026 so far, although the two-time Grand Slam champion has shown plenty of promise. She helped the United States reach the semi-finals of the United Cup before suffering an Australian Open quarter-final exit. The 21-year-old then lost her opener at the Qatar Open before a semi-final exit at the Dubai Tennis Championships. Gauff is currently focused on a lengthy run on home soil at Indian Wells, where she is now into the third round. The fourth seed received a bye in round 1 before defeating Kamila Rakimova 6-3, 7-6, 7-5, in California. It has set up a blockbuster meeting with the hugely popular Alexandra Ila, who Gauff thrashed 6-0, 6-2 in Dubai just last month. She clearly has serving struggles, but a very impressive mental attitude has helped the American get over the line on many occasions. And despite a strong history against Ila, she'll need that positive mental strength to overcome the Filipina ace and her huge fan base when they go head-to-head. On a bright afternoon at the sprawling grounds of the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in New York City, the echo of tennis balls bounced across practice courts like distant thunder. Among the athletes practicing that day was a player whose rise had captivated the tennis world, Coco Gauff. She had already accomplished what many players dream about for decades. A Grand Slam champion, a global icon, and one of the brightest young stars in the sport. Yet even at the summit of success, there was one small, stubborn puzzle that continued to follow her from tournament to tournament. Her serve. To the casual fan, the serve might seem like just another shot in tennis. But those who understand the game know it is the only stroke fully under a player's control. No opponent rushing the net, no incoming spin to react to, just the player, the toss, the motion, and the strike. For Gauff, that moment sometimes felt less like control and more like chaos. A champion with an unfinished weapon. By the time Gauff won the US Open, she had already proven she could outfight, outrun, and outthink almost anyone on the court. Her speed was electric. Her backhand was world-class. Her defensive instincts bordered on supernatural. But her serve? That was another story. Coaches, analysts, and former players frequently pointed to the same issue: inconsistency. Some days the serve looked powerful and confident. Other days, double faults piled up like storm clouds. In tennis, a double fault is more than a simple mistake. It is a gift to the opponent, a free point handed over without a rally. And when they come in clusters, they can shake even the strongest players. Yet the problem was deeper than just nerves. Experts believed the Real challenge lay inside the mechanics of Gauff's motion itself. The motion that split opinions. At first glance, Gauff's service motion looked smooth and athletic. She had the height, the explosiveness, and the coordination needed for a powerful delivery. But slow-motion analysis revealed a technical quirk that complicated everything: the second serve grip. For years, observers noted that Gauff sometimes used a grip that drifted too close to a forehand-style hold rather than the traditional continental grip most players rely on. This subtle difference could change the entire geometry of the serve. With the wrong grip, generating consistent spin becomes harder. And spin, especially topspin or kick, is the lifeline of a safe second serve. Without enough spin, the margin for error shrinks dramatically. That's where the real trouble begins. Why fixing it isn't easy? Many fans wonder, if the issue is known, why not just change it? Because in tennis, the serve is not merely a technique, it is muscle memory carved into the body through thousands of repetitions. For Gauff, the motion had been ingrained since childhood. Rebuilding it would be like asking a professional pianist to relearn how to strike the keys. Even if the change improves the result in the long term, the transition can be uncomfortable, unpredictable, and sometimes even worse before it gets better. Players who attempt major serve changes often face months, or even years, of adjustment. That's why some analysts say the issue could be really difficult to fix. Not impossible, just complicated. The mental battle behind the toss. Technique is only part of the story. The serve is also deeply psychological. Standing alone on the baseline, a player has a few seconds to reset the mind before starting the motion. Doubt can creep in during that pause. If a player has already hit several double faults in a match, the pressure intensifies. The arm tightens. The toss becomes uncertain. The swing slows. Suddenly, the simplest motion in tennis feels like threading a needle in a hurricane. Gauff, despite her calm demeanor, has faced those moments. Yet one of the most striking aspects of her career is how she continues fighting through them. Even when the serve wobbles, her competitive spirit rarely does. Youth on her side. One of the reasons many coaches remain optimistic about Gauff's serve is her age. She burst onto the global stage at the Wimbledon Championships when she was just 15 years old, stunning fans by defeating Venus Williams in one of the most memorable upsets in recent tennis history. Most players are still refining their games at that stage. Gauff, meanwhile, was doing it under the brightest spotlight in the sport. Technical adjustments are far easier to make in the early 20s than later in a career. The body is adaptable, the mind flexible, and the motivation enormous. And Gauff has never been afraid of hard work. The evolution of a champion. Great champions are rarely finished products. Consider the example of Serena Williams, whose serve evolved dramatically over the years into one of the most feared weapons in tennis history. Or Novak Djokovic, who spent seasons refining his service motion early in his career before becoming one of the most complete players the sport has ever seen. Tennis history is filled with stories of players who rebuilt parts of their game. Sometimes the struggle itself becomes part of the journey. For Gauff, the serve may represent exactly that.